The silence after the final whistle was deafening. 80,000 fans inside the stadium had just witnessed the end of an era. On one side of the pitch, Spanish players were celebrating a dramatic stoppage-time victory. On the other side, a 41-year-old legend was walking off the field for the final time. Not with tears, not with anger, but with a stoic look on his face, a brief wave to acknowledge the cheering fans, and the same feeling he had after past losses. Sad. It's normal after being eliminated like this, he would later say, briefly shielding his eyes with his right hand. And then he spoke words that would echo around the world. Words that would finally confirm what millions had suspected for years. Words that would change the way we remember Cristiano Ronaldo forever. I've given everything. I've given my best, and I leave with a clear conscience, he said. This is soccer. This is life for a soccer player. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. But that was just the beginning. What he revealed next left everyone speechless. Cristiano Ronaldo's journey to the 2026 World Cup was never supposed to end like this. The five-time Ballon d'Or winner, the all-time leading goalscorer in international football with 146 goals, the man who had conquered Europe, won 5 Champions Leagues, and lifted the European Championship, had one dream that had always eluded him: the World Cup. This was his 6th attempt. His first World Cup was in 2006 when he was a raw, exciting teenager with stepovers and a burning desire to prove himself. In 2026, he was a 41-year-old legend, the oldest outfield player to ever feature in a World Cup knockout match. The weight of history was heavy. The expectations were immense. But something had changed. Ronaldo had arrived at the tournament with a sense of peace that seemed unusual for a player who had spent his entire career chasing perfection. He had just won his first Saudi Pro League title with Al Nassr, scoring 28 league goals and finally silencing critics who had questioned his move to the Middle East. He had been named in Portugal's squad for a record 6th World Cup, a testament to his incredible longevity. And he had made it clear, this would be his final World Cup. Yes, it's my last one, he had told reporters before the tournament began. Let's go and enjoy it. But his opponents had other plans. The round of 16 draw had been cruel. Portugal would face Spain, their Iberian neighbors, and one of the tournament favorites. The match was framed as a battle of generations. Ronaldo, the living legend who had dominated football for 2 decades, against a young Spanish side hungry for glory. But Ronaldo was not intimidated. He had always thrived on pressure. The day before the match, Cristiano Ronaldo sat down for a press conference that would become one of the most talked about moments of the tournament. He was asked about his future, his form, and the criticism that had followed him throughout his career. And his response was nothing short of remarkable. I am not the player I used to be, he admitted, the words hanging in the air like a confession. It was the first time he had publicly acknowledged what many had suspected. That age had finally caught up with him. But then came the twist. The defiance. The fire that had burned inside him for 23 years. You have been trying to kill me for the past 23 years, he said, pointing at the journalists in the room. But you must have seen that is not worth it. It's a waste of time. But you try and try and try and try and try. The room fell silent. Ronaldo, the man who had been written off more times than any player in history, was fighting back. Not with anger, but with a calm, almost philosophical confidence. As I said before, I will stop when I choose, not when you choose. You always ask the same question, he said. But perhaps the most revealing moment came when he addressed the constant comparisons to Lionel Messi, the debate that had defined his career. I am not going to be more Cristiano Ronaldo or less because I win the World Cup, he declared, his voice steady and sure. And then came the words that would define his legacy. Whatever happens tomorrow, Cristiano Ronaldo will leave with a clear conscience, not 100%, but 1,000%, because in life and football I gave everything. The journalists in the room applauded him as he walked out. But the next day, everything would change. The round of 16 clash between Portugal and Spain was a war of attrition from the very first whistle. Both teams knew what was at stake, and the tension was palpable. For 89 minutes, it seemed like the game was heading for extra time. Portugal had defended resolutely, while Spain had dominated possession but struggled to break down their Iberian rivals. Ronaldo, playing what would be his final World Cup match, gave everything he had. He had 3 shots, 2 of them on target, including one that required a spectacular save from Spanish goalkeeper Unai Simon. He played with the intensity of a man who refused to accept defeat. He is an example, a role model to follow. This is somebody that we need to celebrate. We're talking about a football icon, Portugal coach Roberto Martinez would later say. And then, in the dying moments of the game, it happened. Mikel Merino's stoppage time winner was a cruel blow for Portugal, a dagger to the heart of a team that had given everything. The final whistle sounded, and the contrasting emotions were written on the faces of the players. Spain celebrated wildly, their World Cup dream still alive. Portugal slumped to the ground, their tournament over. Ronaldo walked off the pitch. No tears, no anger, just a stoic expression, a brief wave to the fans, and the same feeling he had after past losses. He had done everything he could. He had given his best. And now, the dream was over. But what happened next would change everything. In the aftermath of the defeat, Cristiano Ronaldo faced the media one final time. The questions were predictable. Would he retire from the national team? How did he feel about the defeat? What was his legacy? But his answers were anything but predictable. I can't confirm whether this is my last game or not. I don't make decisions when I'm in a hurry, he said. It was not the retirement announcement that many had expected, but it was the words that followed that stunned everyone. The truth is, the biggest title I won with the national team was in 2016, Euros, which for me is just as significant as a World Cup, honestly, he declared. It was a controversial statement, a redefinition of his legacy that left many speechless. But Ronaldo was not done. He reflected on his 23-year journey with the Portuguese national team, a journey that had seen him transform from a teenage prodigy into a national icon. I always put body and soul trying to get our goals. Playing or not playing, I will always have an important role to play, he said. He spoke about the criticism he had faced, the doubters who had written him off, and the resilience that had defined his career. Age gives you maturity and experience to see how relative things can be, he said. I even say thanks for the attacks I feel after I turned 40. The criticism is how you grow, so thank you for doing this. It was a moment of profound reflection from a man who had spent his entire life proving people wrong, and it left the world wondering, what would he do next? Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup journey ended with 27 appearances, the second most by any player in the tournament's history, and 11 goals. He was the first man to score at 6 consecutive World Cups. He became the oldest goalscorer in World Cup knockout history at 41 years and 147 days, scoring his first ever goal in the knockout phase of the tournament against Croatia. He had left everything on the pitch, but his legacy extended far beyond the numbers. He's not going to need anybody to define his legacy. His legacy is untouchable, Thierry Henry said after Portugal's exit. Whatever he's going to decide, I wish him all the best. I wish he can pass 1,000 goals. He inspired a lot of generation kids, especially with the way he breathes, lives, and thinks football. The debate about Ronaldo's place in football history will continue for generations. Some will argue that he was never on the same level as Messi, that his obsession with statistics and personal glory ultimately held him back. Others will point to his incredible longevity, his 5 Ballon d'Ors, his European Championship, and his role in transforming Portuguese football. But one thing is certain, Cristiano Ronaldo gave everything. He dedicated his life to football. He pushed himself to the limits of human endurance. He inspired millions around the world. As he himself said, I leave with a clear conscience. And that, perhaps, is the greatest legacy of all. Ronaldo's future remains uncertain. He has not officially retired from the Portuguese national team, leaving the door open for future appearances. He has already achieved what many thought was impossible, winning the Saudi Pro League with Al Nassr, scoring 28 goals and proving that even at 41, he could still dominate a league. The 1,000-goal milestone is within reach, a target that would cement his status as the greatest goalscorer in the history of the sport. I will finish when I decide to finish, as I said years ago, he had said before the World Cup. And when he does decide to finish, the world will stop to pay tribute. For now, Ronaldo is still playing, still scoring, still defying the odds. His World Cup dream may be over, but his journey is not. He has nothing left to prove, but he will continue to push himself, to chase records, to inspire the next generation. And when he finally decides to hang up his boots, he will leave behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. Cristiano Ronaldo's final World Cup may not have ended with a trophy, but it ended with something perhaps more valuable: peace. For 2 decades, he had been driven by an insatiable hunger, a relentless pursuit of greatness that often bordered on obsession. He had pushed himself to the limit, sacrificed everything, and given every ounce of energy to the sport he loved. And in the end, he was able to walk away with a clear conscience. I gave everything that I could. I did everything that I could do. So I'm proud of that, he seemed to say with his actions. There were so many positives, so many memories, so much history. The true measure of Cristiano Ronaldo is not in the trophies he won, the records he broke, or the goals he scored. It is in the millions of lives he touched. The children who grew up watching him, dreaming of becoming like him. The fans who saw in him a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. The athletes who were inspired by his relentless work ethic and his refusal to accept defeat. He will go down in history as one of the greatest to ever play the game, not just for what he achieved, but for how he achieved it. With passion, with determination, and with an unwavering belief in himself. The final whistle blew, and Cristiano Ronaldo walked off the pitch for the final time. But the dream belongs to Ronaldo, and with every goal he scores, it also belongs to the millions who dared to dream with him. This was not the end, it was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter of reflection, of gratitude, of peace. He had given everything, and he left with a clear conscience. And that is the greatest legacy of all.